Am I going to be able to do this in one take? I don't know. But welcome to a video that is not Chainsaw Man or Dandadan. In fact, it's another fandom thing. Now, I love another fandom thing. Well, everything's got a fandom, but I got into this to kind of engage with the fandom, but more about that before this formal sounding beginning. Since I wrote a lot of notes, which is low-key a script, but we, we continue. Um, I love having something that I've crammed into every aspect of my fandom obsessed head, right? Where I love consuming content of like a said thing. So let's let's say Danganronpa, let's say Your Turn to Die, let's say Chainsaw Man or Dandadan or Persona, five at the time, but more so three Reload. Crazy. I love it so mouth. I love it so mouth, guys. Um, but I love it so much that I also love finding that next big thing, or at least another thing to kind of jump onto. And for, I guess, like, other than probably Raincoat, the next thing was mouthwashing. And it came kind of out of nowhere, and it feels like a game that I would not usually play. And I think it took a lot of people off guard where I'm like, oh yeah, I got mouthwashing. I say a lot of people, it's like three people. Relax. You're not that famous. You hit 100 subs, which is crazy, by the way. Thank you. And now you've got all that fame in your head, you know? I just need to buy a Ferrari and get on with the video. Um, but it looked eerie. It looked unsettling. And yeah, it didn't look like something, especially with horror games, I feel like I'm horrible with being entertaining with them. But this was so interesting because it was visual novelty, and I think that was one of the things that initially won me over. Now, what's important about this video is I'm going to be talking a lot about spoilies and spoilers. So if this is the way that you choose to consume the game or stuff about the game, you know, go ahead. But if you haven't played the game or watched someone play the game, I highly recommend it. I think it was a very interesting time. Now, I do caveat that with some trigger warnings for people that might be unsettled by SA. If you don't know what that means, you can look it up in a trigger warning sense. I don't know if like words like that get like flagged by like the YouTube system while I also swear, but there's also people dying. So if that unsettles you and makes you uncomfortable, thank you so much for watching the first like 3 minutes of the video. I'll see you in another one, or not at all. But thank you for your time. Okay. So, if there's stuff that I don't really touch base on, there's quite a lot. We can talk about things that don't really don't really roll with the way this video is structured in the comments. We can talk about anything mouthwashing. So yeah, I love your comments. I love these videos to be a discussion, a forum, whatever. But yeah, I this is like a vomit of thoughts, and I thought a great way to structure it was to kind of bounce from character to character while also delving into their interactions with particular characters. Okay, so in the beginning, in quite literally the beginning, you start like kind of like, oh, okay, the ship is literally about to fucking crash. So here you are thinking, yeah, I'm gonna divert it and I'm gonna fix it, fine. And I remember doing it, and like the whole time I'm like, I like the only option is to go right head on into it. What the hell? Like what kind of start is this? And then you realize it's like a very tragic story, and you realize it wasn't Curly that did that, but Jimmy, and Curly unfortunately got um the really horrible consequences of taking the front of the damage, right? Along with the what's it called, like the insulator, like foam sort of thing. That thank God saved all the other good people, and unfortunately Jimmy. I guess it'll be like a theme maybe throughout this. I mean, I think it's just the theme in general with mouthwashing. Fuck Jimmy, right? But yeah, and I think that's a good place to start, where you kind of just like go into the series thinking like you assume that you're usually playing a good character and a well-intentioned character. And I think as you continue playing it, and I say you, but for me, I should stop projecting that when you, I'm gonna say that, but don't mean it that you will always for sure like think this way. But I thought that there would be some level of like rationality to this. But the more you learn about the character that you're playing as, at least most of the time, since you do have moments that you play as Carly, you realize how much of a shit person you are playing as. So he's doing all these different things that kind of disrupt the harmony of the group. And I think you experience firsthand a lot of the stuff that is post Jimmy, um, like centered around like, but like mostly the end of Carly, like of Carly literally almost dying. So there's the stuff with the ship, but there's also just like the yeah, because before then you're playing as Carly. That such an interesting game because you go back and forth in time. But yes, you play as Jimmy, and it's kind of like the aftermath, minus the Daisuke incident, of how Jimmy behaves, where people are like so dismissive of Jimmy, and you like up until the point where you finally start to really piece together that Jimmy's a piece of shit. Like you kind of go, okay, wow. Well, like especially with Swansea, it's like, wow, you have a stick up your ass. What the hell happened? But you know, he did not have a stick up his ass. At least with Jimmy. Jimmy deserved. He didn't take responsibility, but he did take a lot of shit. Um, and unfortunately dealt a lot of shit. Um, Jimmy is an interesting character also in the sense of I think his trope is often quite like I'd like to think actually not, but I it would not surprise me that characters like him are in your work environments or in other like like your friends' work environment, like that they're quite more common than you like to think. And these people are often either average or maybe slightly above average, where for them, I think they more go down the curly route, if anything. But there's often this person that does like the bare minimum and talks really big. Now, they want this power, I it's not really that they want the responsibility. It's not really that they want to passionately guide others towards like a goal or something, or improve like the overall cohesion and importance of the crew. That's something, as someone who loves taking leadership opportunities as I've like continued to grow, that it like breaks my heart that anyone would try to do it like for almost like the glory, right? And I I get why, like, naturally you want to be a top dog. Like I think there's some aspect of like ego inside of us that really want to feel important. But when you when it's unregulated and it's not it's not like checked in with your friends or the people around you, it could spiral you to do such horrible things and lash out in such horrible, horrible ways. I need to take a breath. If you haven't noticed already, and this is your first video by the way, I don't really edit these. I don't edit them all. I make the thumbnail and then I go, yeah, let's make some notes and let's fucking talk about it. So, bear with me. I think it's a great way to have like an unfiltered conversation. It's as if I'm actually just talking to you. There's no music. I might add music in the future, but I feel like this was the one to do it with because I love the main theme. But anyway, um, so going from a very dislikable character to the character that I love and I feel so bad for because she goes through so much hardship, but she's also partly the reason why I got into this game. Now you couple that like with um no, I need to backtrack. With Anya, right? I saw a lot of fan art of her. And if you're watching this video as like a as someone who's trying to get into mouthwashing, I guess through spoiler talk, I guess, you'd be like, okay, like yeah, I've seen Anya like everywhere. Like what is this mouthwashing sort of thing? I was in that boat. And maybe some of you who are watching this to consume that mouthwashing feel of YouTube content, you might have experienced the same thing as well before watching or playing the game yourself. So I'm like, Anya is drawn so beautifully, and I think drawn so differently too, because the I think what's it called, like the PS1 PS2 graphics, which is mentioned in the credits by the way. It wasn't just like, oh, this is just how we did it and it happened to look PlayStation, like old PlayStation. It's like, no, that was super intentional and super cool. But what's it called? I'm losing my train of thought. Um she is drawn like almost like Mona Lisa-esque at times. Maybe it's just the sample size of what I saw, but I'm like, this is interesting. You couple it with like how mouthwashing is like just I think when you come across a game with such a almost absurd like sounding title, you just kind of go like you look at it in intrigue and go, why the hell are people talking about mouthwashing? What about toothbrushing? You know, that's underrated, I think. Although you do it twice a day, so is it really um underrated? Anyway, let's let's delve into what's it called? Some more important stuff that I want to talk about and more like serious stuff with Anya. Because not only does she suffer a lot, but I think she also um helps us peer into the minds of other people. Now, like I said before, there was essay mention, and Anya sadly gets essayed at some point by Jimmy. At no point do you actually, thank God, like commit that act through the game, but it is implied that it happened a previous time. And at some point, she tells Curly, I believe it's Curly, that she is pregnant. I believe she would also tell Jimmy at some point as well, but um we don't have that interaction like shown to us in the game since we jump around, but we don't jump around to everything. And oh my god, I need a breath. Now, one side of the essay incident, I think people look at it as is fuck the Pony Express. And it's not, one side is not the right way to look at it. it's one aspect, right? Like one aspect that could really help. And this is like the Pony Express having particular rooms. I believe it was like the shuttle, like the very front of the ship, and then I believe, is it the med bay? Yeah, because she locks herself in the med bay, but not like any of the other rooms, and how there's a lack of locks or security and that sort of thing. Safety is like preached on like on your screen, all over your screen about that issue. So that is one fault that goes to the Pony Express. But if you just have someone with deranged morals in the form of Jimmy, unfortunately that just, it's just horrible. It's horrible. And I feel so bad for what Anya had to live with and what Anya had to experience, right? Because you could tell that she was deep into thought about it. Like being pregnant, like forcibly pregnant, um, or pregnant, like I guess consensually pregnant. Either way, you have a lot of things to think about. The forcibly pregnant part makes things even more complicated. The father is someone that you absolutely despise and are like terrified of, right? And given the fact that she doesn't have savings, she's now like, am I gonna have to dedicate a bunch of like or like, she says she doesn't have savings. Does it mean like she's like kind of living paycheck to paycheck and barely has anything? Which is like horrible and is likely the reason why like she went the route she did with hesitation, overdosing with the medication. But she's like, I can't financially support this baby. I can't financially um, support like an abortion or a way to kind of like, I say way, I think those are the only two options. Um, Pardon my ignorance, but yeah, like an abortion or actually taking care of the child because she felt, I don't know, like there's religious reasons and other reasons why people choose to continue to deliver the baby, but she couldn't live with that, and she committed suicide in the way that she did. Right. Um uh it's heavy. It's really heavy. And I'm trying to, oh, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I feel for Anya so much. And I think the most devastating part, and I think the game does this so brilliantly in a devastating way, is how when you enter the room where she initially has died from the overdose, she is not visible. So it people who are going into this video not having played the game or not knowing what it was like, you would enter the room and the game would distort its screen, which is like, again, really great way to depict Jimmy's like neglectfulness on all this, that she just isn't there. And like it's as if she wasn't even human. And that's so disgusting for Jimmy. And all the more justice for Anya. Like like preaching like justice for Anya. I I'm glad that she gets all the love and support from the community, and how much she's carried on with her job despite these setbacks, which is also very applaudable about her. You know, someone had to tend to Curly when Curly got fucked up really bad. Someone had to give out to know painkiller like dosage and how to work out that stuff, or with the knowledge of like, hey, don't use that mouthwash. Like its antiseptic properties are like redundant, because of all the sugar that they like crammed into into the mouthwash that they found that they were shipping. So she played an important role in that ship, and despite all those setbacks, she's a brilliant woman for chugging on for as long as she did. Now, Curly is interesting. Curly is a character that we play somewhat. Like we kind of go back and forth between Curly and Jimmy a little bit, but we mostly play as Jimmy by the end of wow, we are at 21 minutes almost. Okay, stop getting distracted. Curly shows I think Curly divides some people. Because I think some people see Curly as like some people see Curly as just an unfortunate man, and some people look at him quite cynically, especially given the situation with Anya and along with his handling of Jimmy. And I get both. I get both aspects. I think I lean towards Curly being likely just how do I put this? I'm putting myself on the spot here. I think Curly is on the bad end of the spectrum through his ignorance. So let me walk you through this. Curly shows himself as someone who built himself up as someone who can handle the responsibility. A responsibility that Jimmy just cannot handle and help keep the team afloat, right? There are a lot of things when you take up leadership roles and or like a team lead sort of like role, or a manager or like a boss sort of role where these little things that you do or these less is like boastful things that you do, like things you wouldn't just be like, yeah, I did that. Maybe some of you are really good at like expressing everything you do, which I don't know. Like I just kind of like getting on with the job whenever I'm in that position. But you help keep the team afloat. You keep the mission going, and you're all and like you keep everyone kind of chugging in the right directions. So in that sense, I think I was gonna say Jimmy, definitely not Jimmy. I think Curly shows aspects of doing a good job in that front. Now, the flaws come from, and when we see it best in a conversation with Anya. Now, there's a scene where Curly and Anya are looking at basically a display that kind of simulates looking outdoors. Now they're in space, so they're probably be quite depressed at the sight of just seeing space all the time and knowing it's likely just not going to change. If anything, it'd probably terrify you a little bit at some point because you might see things like moving and be like, "Whoa, I do not want to be hit by that." Right? Since they're stranded, but they're hopeful. They're hopeful in their strandedness. And in that screen, Anya can see a dead pixel. I believe that's how it's described as. And Curly just struggles to see it. And I think this is a beautiful way, or like a brilliant way, that the game depicts Curly's lack of sensitivity, or maybe Curly's, how do I put it? I think when you see the bigger picture, or like try to see the collective bigger picture, where someone in a like managerial role or like higher up role like has like it's quite helpful. It helps like make sure that like you can see everything, and in general, okay, great, like everything is generally functioning and going in the right direction. But sometimes it's those little things or just some cogs that you just kind of look away from for a second or lose track of that completely derail the whole thing and can be, over time, the whole reason why the dysfunction continues to build and everything kind of just implodes. And Curly knowing about the essay that Anya had gone through, and probably Jimmy's just kind of demeanor, and even in that birthday cake where like they just all celebrate for the sake of, I guess, celebrating, and they're just like, yeah, we're gonna put it around Curly this time. Um, like he was still very cynical and very cold towards Curly in that aspect, and it sometimes when you see a little bit of fire, it's so easy to be like, this is not a real analogy, but how I'm framing it is like there's a little parasite or something, and it's like it's fine. There's only like one of them, you know, and then it starts to grow, and it's this. Yeah, this is kind of getting discussed, but you just don't deal with it. It's something that you don't deal with, and therefore it continues to build. Um, and it feels like Curly just really struggled with dealing with Jimmy. Jimmy was that parasite to the group. And I think he tried to play it off very friendly, almost with rose tinted glasses, but he realized far too late that that was just not the way to deal with Jimmy properly. Um, and he turned out to be someone that didn't prioritize probably enough checking up on every single team member. He's probably doing like it's a tough position to be in because I think there's a lot of responsibility on him. I think there's just, unfortunately, he just could not handle or deal with some other pressing issues that turned out to be very big in the end. Wow. And breathe. Okay, we're done talking about. I quickly talked about Jimmy, but I think Jimmy kind of bleeds into everyone, sort of thing. Kind of, especially the two that we just talked about, in Anya and Curly. And now we go into Swansea. Now Swansea is a very interesting character in and himself. This is a man who's lived all his life, has dealt with enough bullshit from, job to job, um, and from different aspect of his life to different aspect of his life. We see that in that final, you know, final like conversation with Jimmy that ends with a very iconic fuck you, and I thought that was chef's kiss. It was really good. I like, and he kind of talks from the perspective of, hey, I had a pretty good life, huh? Like him saying, there's a moment in time where the worst part of it was that my beer bottle was empty or something. I'm like, that's pretty bars. That is literally quite bars. And Swansea is a character. I think some people um put on the hey, he also knew about the Anya situation regarding the SA and the harassment with Jimmy, but I think Swansea, as someone who wasn't in a position of power, was likely not trying to cause further rumblings because, you know, one thing led to another, and now guns are involved, and we're starting to play God and kill people, right? Well, Jimmy, Jimmy ended up um, playing God in this aspect, sort of thing. So whether Swansea knew or not, I'm not 100% sure. And I don't know how that makes me feel about it with what I said, but I think Swansea was generally well intentioned, and we see it mostly with his. I was gonna say a bromance. It is not a bromance. They're lifetimes apart, but with Daisuke, and how he knew that Daisuke was this um, young little guy. He was just a little guy, trying to get used to the job, and it was his first internship, right? And unfortunately, after the situation with Daisuke getting hit by those power cables, those exposed like power cables, I think they're power cables, exposed cables, and taking significant like injuries in the process. Fuck Jimmy. By the way, fuck Jimmy. Oh my god, that was so irresponsible. If anything, Jimmy really should have done that himself. Like the repair. No, it wasn't a repair. It was trying to get to Anya since she locked herself in the med bay. Um, what's poetic, is poetic the word? Is Swansea's name and how he ended Daisuke's life was like I I understood it from the perspective of ending someone's life and in the hopes that they don't have to suffer anymore. That the that if they continued to live, that they would be living in pain. And Curly sees, or Curly, sorry, I had to clear my throat. Curly has like the opposite, like the opposite consequence of it, or the opposite side of it, where you just kind of suffer in pain. Like you've got no skin, you've got an exposed eye and bandages all over, that sort of thing. And I wonder if in some aspects Swansea just like, I saw that. I can't let you go through the same thing. You're so young, yet I don't want you to be young and in pain, especially in going into your like prime years of your life. And actually, I got distracted from mentioning Swansea's name. Swansea's name, I think, is a reference to. I didn't figure this out on my own, by the way. Thank you to the other video essays and other discussions for pointing this out. That swans kill their young, or like they kind of end them from suffering. Uh, and I think that is a brilliant way to come up with it. I don't know if the other names are just like really random or something, but that specific aspect for Swansea is, I think, beautiful. I think it's good writing. Now, onto the person that he killed. What a segue as we hit 33 minutes. I've never yapped for this long. Oh my god. This might as well be a stream. Now the Daisuke part. Daisuke deserves so much better. Along with Swansea and Anya, back at Earth, living their lives as best as they can, despite the traumatic experiences of being on that Pony Express, right? Daisuke showed a young naivete. That is not how I wrote it down, but I just wanted to say it like that whenever I see that word. And it's almost refreshing, right? Everybody else has probably been in the roles that they have been for quite a bit. Maybe Anya, med science and being a teacher, those pathways take forever, it feels, to actually like get into your field proper. But you know, with Daisuke, very, very young kid who didn't really know what direction he was going in. And he's taken on this internship that is going to make his family proud, or was intended to make his family proud. I think his family's still proud. Like, his family should still be proud. Otherwise, that's some kind of sad parenting, don't you think? And he was learning off Swansea. Swansea was teaching him the ropes, and no matter how much Swansea kind of um was pissed off, it's like, oh, Daisuke, you're such a kid. Like, I can get that sort of vibe with it. There was a sense of like a father son sort of bond, and it's really tragic that Daisuke was not able to continue living on, even just because he was saved um that pod, that cryostasis pod or whatever, in the hope that somebody would be able to find him. I guess when he's 36. I want to say Daisuke is like 16. Um, and it was very thoughtful of Swansea, and it's only natural to want to keep the youngest person alive, I think, which wasn't the case, right? He was, if anything, one of the first people to actually die. In fact, the second, right? Am I remembering this wrong? Anyway, um, poor Daisuke, poor Swansea, and poor Anya, right? And I want to end this. Yeah, we're at the end of the characters basically. Um, the pony thing was interesting. Sexual desires. I think that was really gross. I'd rather not talk about it. You can look it up if you want, but I caution you that it's a little bit weird. I mean, the game talks about it a little bit, but yeah, no thanks. But the last thing I want to touch on in particular is um not about one character in particular, but I think it's brilliant how this game did a great job of showing common tropes of people, or at least like semi-common. These are like tropes of people that you will find in workplaces, right? I think I've met a Swansea. I've met a Daisuke in a completely different font, probably. I don't know if I know an Anya, but I might just have not had the sample size of interactions with people that would relate to Anya. Um, I've I've definitely met a Jimmy in some form. You have to be sort of abstract and kind of like extract like the aspects of Jimmy that you don't like of him, like personality, and what like creates him uh a, an anatomically sort of thing. Um and then Curly, I can see that as well. I don't think I've worked with a Curly, but I almost like evaluate myself like, hey, like Curly's a nice also way as someone that is aspiring to be in leadership roles to be like, hey, I think just as your responsibilities are important, that taking care of the people in your group is just as important because they're the ones, like helping you um along the way, right? And what a tragic tale to learn things from, to um feel horrible, like to feel horrible about, yet so intrigued about, right? What a tragic tale. And I hope you enjoyed this video of rambling. This is the longest video aside from literally just, cropping a VOD in regards to the last Nintendo Nintendo video. The Nintendo Direct. That's what they're called, right? So eternally grateful, very grateful at least, that you decided to get to the end of this video and heard me ramble for this long. I love Mouthwashing. I think it's a brilliant piece. Thank you so much, Wrong Organ. I listened to the main theme of the song and just kind of existentially sit in the corner sometimes. So thank you for that, I guess. But thank you for the new fascination. It was genuinely amazing how this story was put together. And if you haven't played the game yourself, even like you've just watched someone play, experience it. Watch other videos on it because they'll also tackle, like the discussion points a lot better, maybe smoother editing. I don't know. But if you're into Any other of the anything else that features on my channel, whether it's your turn to die. I haven't made a Danganronpa video, but I feel like I should eventually. Chainsaw Man and Dandadan have weekly manga videos about them reviewing chapters. I say weekly, sometimes they're bi-weekly, but thank you so very much. Also, thank you very much. I don't know if I said at the beginning of the video, I forget, for 100 subs. It kind of came out of nowhere, kind of threw me off guard. I work a lot of my work days like midweek, so I was like, wait, I got back from work and I was like, oh, okay. So I'm gonna have a I'm gonna have a look as to um how that came to be, but if you're real, thank you so much for being here and I greatly appreciate your time. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a great Christmas. I hope you have a great Boxing Day. I hope that you have a great holidays, since some of you guys might not celebrate particular things. Have I rambled enough? I think I have. Bye bye, and ciao for now.